YouTube, what's happening? It's Christopher. I'm doing another gear review slash demo of, today we got Yamaha THR100D, which stands for Dual. And that Dual is a big thing, man. You get one head, but it's got two identical heads in it. And you can run it in stereo, so that you can basically be playing through 2 amps at one time and get this ginormous sound. It's awesome. Or you can use it as 2 separate channels. So you basically effectively use each channel as its own amp. And you can set a clean to one, you can set a dirty to another. There's multiple ways that you can use this amplifier in a live situation or even recording. In the back of the amp, it has tube emulation. There's a knob in the back. For each independent channel, they have identical knobs and settings that you can do for each head. They emulate tubes. There's 5 different tubes for each one, and they emulate them well. They get a 6V6, EL84, KT88, 6L6 GCs, and EL34s. And you can select, in the back there's knobs, where you can select which tube you want it to emulate. And I've found that with this amp, the louder you have it, the better the tube emulation is. So this amp, like a lot of the new amps that are coming out now, have options for how much power you're using. This has 100 watts, 50 watts, and 25 watts. Today, through this video, I have it set up at the 50 watt, which I think sounds good for playing in your house. You can get really good volumes that still sound good, low volumes I should say, that still sound good. You can get that with all 3 settings, but I found that the 50 still gets a good punch in the deep or on the low end. So it also has the option to switch between Class A or Class AB, and you can set either channel to either A or AB. And what I'm going to show you today, I have this set up with channel 1 being my gain or my heavier tones, and channel 2 is set up for my cleaner tones. Channel 1 I have set to KT88 tubes and set to Class AB. The second one, which is my cleans, I have set to Class A and set to EL34s or EL84s. EL84 on my clean. And I can blend the 2, or I can use them independently. Now, the way that I would use this personally is I would set it up like I have it, because it essentially gives you 2 channels because there's a booster. So this knob is the booster, and it's also enabled via the foot switch, which is on the floor. Foot switch looks like this. So it's a pretty awesome foot switch. You got your channel 1, channel 2. Turn on both channels at the same time. You got your booster, you got a switch for the reverb, and you've got a switch for the effects loop. There's some other options that this has also when you plug it into the software on your computer. It's got a USB out on it. You can't record through the USB. It's not like it turns it into an audio interface. It doesn't work that way. It simply works as an interface to its own software. And in that software, you can do a few things. The booster, you can assign a different booster type to each channel independently. So it's not like if there's 3 boosters. There's a white, there's a green, and there's an amber. And I'm pretty sure those 3 colors associate with some popular booster pedals that are in the market. In this example, I have this one set up to the amber, which is my dirty channel, set up to the amber booster, and the clean channel is set up to the white booster. Very subtle differences between the 3 types of boosters that you can enable. The other things that you can do with the software is you can change the type of reverb that each channel uses. So it comes with spring, 2 different rooms, a small room and a big room, and a hall. My heavy, actually both channels I have set to hall. I like the hall, it sounds the best out of the 4 different reverb channels to my ears anyway. You can also change the effects loop from parallel to series. I'm not a big pedal guy, so that doesn't affect me. Some of you out there may know what that means. I don't. But it's available for you to do. So enough about the software. Let's get into some tones, man. Sorry, I'm long-winded on this. So I'm going to start off with my clean channel with no booster turned on. And I'm on the neck pickup of my Michael Kelly Telecaster. So here's the clean tones you can get. Now if I turn the booster on, it gives me a little bit of grit. So pretty awesome two-channel type of sounds right there. It sounds like you're going from a clean to a little bit of a gain stage there. So you can get some really usable sounds with that. You can get some great blues tones with it. And of course you can play with the EQ settings and the booster settings, the gain. Right now my booster is up around the 1 o'clock area. My gain is at about 10, 11 o'clock. And my master volume is just almost at 12 o'clock, which is slightly less. My bass is cranked. My middle is slightly over 12 o'clock. My treble is turned off. My presence is at around, I don't know, 10 o'clock on the knob. My reverb is around 10 or 11. My volume is around 11:30, like almost 12. So that's the settings that I'm using. Also, which I failed to mention so far, is that there's 5 different amp types, I guess you could call them. You got a modern, lead, crunch, clean, and solid for solid state. And it basically goes from the bottom to the top. It goes clean to dirty. Surprisingly, I'm using the lead channel to get my clean tones, which is pretty crazy that you're using the second to highest gain amp to get my clean. But it sounds good in the room. I'm not sure what the camera's picking up, but the lead sounds really great. It's got a good low end to it. And you can set it up, obviously, fairly clean. And it still gets nice and loud and stays clean, which is really cool. The solid state is so clean you can't make it distort. It's super duper clean, and it's got a lot of headroom too, so you can really crank up some cleans with that. I'm not really going to go through the different sounds of the amps. I'm just going to show you how I'm using this. I'll do another demo on this later to show you a little bit more of the features. So we're going to move on to my channel 1, which is my heavier sounds. We'll start with it not boosted. And when it's not boosted, you get this really cool classic rock type of tone. So it's got a pretty good amount of gain going through. However, I'm not using all the gain that it has. When you enable the boost on this thing, though, the gain just like blasts off into space. So I'm going to turn the gain on now, and you can see you can get some serious like metal tones with this. So you can really blast off with this thing, and it's loud too. I'm on the 50-watt channel or setting, and it gets plenty loud to play in a band. I haven't used this with my band yet, but I'm going to this week, and I can't wait. I'm playing it, by the way, through my Egnater 212, which is a modified Egnater 212 because I replaced the speakers in it. I put Eminence in there. I put a Texas Heat and a Wizard, both 16 ohm speakers. They sound remarkable. This is one of my favorite cabs ever. But yeah, that's the Yamaha head. I'm going to keep this one fairly short, and I'll probably do some more in the future. Probably a few more, because this thing is like feature laden. So I just wanted to show you some quick tones that I used. Oh, before I go, I want to explain how I'm going to be using this also, so that I get 5 channels essentially with this head. So if I go back to my clean, non-boosted, I get this. Nice crystal clean. I boost it for my second sound. That's 2. So now I take the boost off, go to my other channel, and I got my classic rock tone for 3. Then I boost it to get my high gain sound. Then I can turn them both on at the same time, and I get this pretty different tone. So it's basically both heads combined into one sound. And I suppose if I turn the booster off, that's a 6th sound. And I can play with with the master gains too, to blend one so it's more dominant than the other. So that's the clean being the more dominant, and it's just got a little bit of a crisp distortion underneath it. I should also mention that this is a stereo cab, but you don't need a stereo cab to do this. The stereo cab is good if you want to put each head into its own speaker. This amp, I can do that. I actually preferred the sound going mono, so that both speakers are enabled on each tone, and then they blend in the amp and go out to the speakers as a blended tone. It's very cool to do the stereo thing, which I'm not set up to do right now, so I can't show it to you. I'll do that in another video so you can hear it. It does sound different. It doesn't sound quite as smooth to me. The separation is a little bit too much, so it doesn't sound like the sounds blend. But you could totally do that and set it up with different cabs, or use a stereo cab and use the speakers individually. I don't know about it that way, though. It just doesn't sound as good to my ears. I like it going mono. And when I bought the amp, I thought that I had to have a stereo cab to use it, and you don't. So that's important to know. That it was one of the things that might keep people from buying the head because they're not sure. But you can use it through a mono cab. I actually swapped. I went to my rehearsal studio and took this cabinet home and replaced it with my orange that I usually have at home, which is a mono cab, because I was afraid that I couldn't use the head as a mono output. Turns out you can, and I actually prefer it that way. So I'll probably bring this cabinet back to the spot and bring my orange home, because I like the orange here. I think this sounds better for my live situations. But anyway, I'm rambling. So that's the amp. You can literally use it to get 6 different tones, just by switching between the two, blending the two, and then toggling the booster on and off. So you get a total of 6 different tones that you can use. So it's very, very versatile. I highly recommend this amp. I highly recommend you go try one. Pick one up for yourself. They're really awesome amps. And for anybody concerned, I don't get paid by anybody to do these videos. I just do it for the love of gear and for the love of sharing knowledge with fellow musicians, because that's what I think the world should be all about, is sharing and being good to each other. So you guys stay cool, be good, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.